Tribal Health and Human Services Department of the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes is proud to present Good Medicine, a program dedicated to the wellness of the Flathead Nation. The mission is summarized quite simply: a healthier people, a stronger nation. We'll strive to make Good Medicine a reliable source of ideas and information about health issues so that everyone can make informed decisions about their own lifestyle and health care. You'll meet health professionals, tribal government and spiritual leaders, and interesting people from the tribal community discussing important health issues that profoundly affect us all.
Hello, this is Good Medicine. I'm your host, Larry Pitts, and today we have two wonderful guests with us. We have Linda Edwards from Lake County Home Hospice, and she is the director, and I have Maureen Theiler across from me, and Maureen is the volunteer coordinator for Lake County Hospice. And ladies, before we get started about this, actually it's a wonderful topic. A lot of people out there in TV land are going to say, what is hospice doing on Larry's show? But we're going to have we're going to break down some walls hopefully today. And before we get started, I'd like you to say hello to somebody. Linda, anybody you want to say hello to?
To everybody at Lake County Home Health and other staff. And boy, you got me going. All our families that we've had in the last couple of years that have been involved with hospice.
All right. Maureen, how about yourself?
Well, say hello to the community at large and hope they're reading the newspaper. This is National Hospice Month, and we're around to answer questions. Phone numbers will be given later in the program.
All right. Well, Linda, let's get started with you as being the director of Lake County Hospice. What is hospice all about? I mean, you hear positives and negatives. I mean, let's break some of those walls.
Well, a lot of people think that hospice is a place you go to die. It's a house or a place, and it's not. It's a process where we try to provide the care that the people need who are terminally ill, to die with the control and the dignity that they deserve as they go through this process. It's based in the home. The basic goal is pain management, symptom control, and real support of the client and the family as they process the dying process.
Mm-hmm. Maureen, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I think one of the other thrusts of hospice is that it considers the whole family. It is not just focused on the patient. It meets the needs of the other family members, like the caretaker, the primary caretaker. And my part in the program is to see that there are volunteers, something really unique in our area, and it's probably peculiar to rural areas, is that there are large extended families who cooperate with the care of their patient. And if it happens to be mom or dad, that extended family really does the work of what our volunteers normally do. So we consider the whole family is given care.
Well, you know, it's not a secret on the reservation in Lake County that, you know, I'm dealing with quite a few health issues myself, and I know a lot of times in life that people will focus on me and they forget about my wife. They forget about my daughter or my son and what they're dealing with themselves. You know, and that's why when you said the extended family makes such a positive statement to me.
It does.
And because they're sort of the forgotten few sometimes, or forgotten many. And so we can build on that one. Linda?
Well, in hospice, in regards to that, we couldn't do the work that we do without the family and the friends and the extended community that these people have. You know, over and over again we're told, hey, you know, great job, we couldn't have done it without you. Well, we feel we could not have done it without them, because that is one of the criteria, is that there be somebody in the home that takes responsibility. And what we've seen, particularly on the reservation, is lots of people in the homes taken responsibility for the client. And but the family's real important. Anybody who's involved with that client is an important part of the process.
Well, you know, it's sort of interesting, again, using that word quite interesting. I see hospice sometimes as sort of like the point guard on a basketball team.
That's interesting.
You're sort of guiding people where they need to be in certain situations because you've been there before. But you're not disrupting. You're not trying to be the scorer. You're not trying to take, you know, there's no glory in what you do. You're just allowing a process to go on in a very natural way, in the most loving way that it can happen. You know, I was called in by Linda last week into a situation. And as a massage therapist, I came in with the family and was able to rub the shoulders of a family who'd been up all night, to touch them in a positive way. But I also appreciated watching Linda. She doesn't know I watched her. Always sitting back, encouraging people to come in. Why don't you get your shoulders rubbed? She knew who needed their shoulders rubbed. Then you asked me to go in and work on the mother for a while. And I really appreciated the caring that was there. You want to touch that at all, Linda?
Well, you know, we've been labeled, or I've been labeled, in one particular situation as the cruise director. It was a situation you were familiar with too. You know, we're support people, but our function is to just be there to support, and sometimes you miss things. I try to watch family members to see if there's anybody who's having a difficult time with whatever's going on, but sometimes you do miss that. But the goal is just to be there to support. It's their process, and they're in control.
Well, Maureen, yourself, you know, dealing with volunteers. Now, how do you make a volunteer sensitive? I mean, is there training for the volunteer?
There is a training program, and it consists of 18 to 20 hours of input from professional people. We have had communication and speech, listening type skills. We talk about the universal precautions and AIDS education, the pastoral needs of the patient and the family, grief, bereavement, and the role of the social worker in hospice. Many times the volunteers come to that training program because they have had an experience themselves, either with hospice or with the situation, if hospice program wasn't available, then with assisting with the process of some close family member at home. And the patient's desire to be taken care of at home. Our volunteers only provide respite care, though. And that means they can go and stay with the patient while the caregiver goes to the beauty parlor or takes a bike ride or just goes and takes a bath and a nap. And that is anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a week. We do ask a 1-year commitment from the volunteers in order that they have an opportunity perhaps to be in on the beginning of a care of a patient. So they're very well trained, they're certified, and that's part of the demands that are on us from our licensure.
All right. Linda, how long has hospice been going in Lake County?
We were licensed in 1995 by the state of Montana, and we did hospice through home health. And then in 1996 we became Medicare and Medicaid certified.
So it's still fairly new in Lake County.
We've served about 52 clients since we began.
Are there, you know, being that new, I'm sure that there's still a lot of people out there who have the wrong image of you guys.
I think there's a real stigma attached to the minute that they hear hospice, they think instant death. It means, you know, oh my God, I'm dying.
2 weeks probably.
Yeah, and we'd like to dispel that. Hospice really is a process. We would like to initially get in early with someone so they get a chance to know us and that trust is built up and we get to know them and their family. And actually walk through the process with them. We don't like to do hospice when it's a 1 or 2 day experience. That's not fair to the client, and that's not fair to the staff who have to be involved with that. Another stigma that we've heard, or another thing attached, is that we're a religious organization. A religion is important. The spiritual aspect of the client and family is important, but it's non-denominational. We don't really care what the spiritual background is, as long as there's something. And we don't promote our own religion.
Well, you know, before we came on, we were talking about another individual who I had the opportunity to be around, and I knew he had a terminal illness, but he looked very well, and he was planning on living for a long time. And then it came out that he was seeing you guys for his pain medication.
Yeah, it was an instance where basically he just wanted to be able to call somebody when he got in excruciating pain and needed an injection, and so that's what we did. You know, that was, we weren't out there bothering him unless he called us, and he did it his way.
Yep, and it was a very wonderful way.
It was a beautiful way.
Yep, you know, and you're sitting back there, I'm going, why all these experiences starting to fall in front of me? And I said, guess what? They're supposed to be on the program for one thing. But it is a tremendous, tremendous, you know, responsibility to learning to allow people who have a terminal illness, you know, to go out with dignity. If they choose to be at home, which most of us would probably want to be, you know, to spend that time with the ones we love and care for. And you ladies are doing that. You're filling a new gap. You know, and hopefully that's what we're going to, you know, get rid of here, is that stigma today. And we might even spin this into a second program. I mean, I didn't even know this was Hospice Month, by the way. And I'm thrilled about that. So Linda, another question for you. What is hospice admission, the process, what does it involve?
The criteria, there's under the Medicare, Medicaid certification guidelines, there's basically 3 criteria, and one is that you are diagnosed 6 months or less to live by your physician, and that's arbitrary. People have lived longer than 6 months, but they look at that, and if you go on beyond 6 months, you better be documenting that we are in the process. Sometimes we've had people who we call flunk hospice because they have not progressed to the terminal thing quick enough. The other one is that there's a primary caregiver. And an area of that we're looking into is getting this into the nursing homes, because there are some people out there who do not have anybody at home and end up in a nursing home, and we're going to try to do hospice for them in the nursing home.
What a great idea.
And the third one is that they've given up curative measures, that you know, they're not seeking chemotherapy and radiation to prolong life, that they've accepted the fact that the disease is here and they just want to be made comfortable.
So now what if they're doing something natural? Is that okay?
Natural's fine. Okay. Natural's fine.
Because there are a lot of people out doing natural things. And
you also can do chemo and radiation if it's palliative. They do radiation therapy if there's, for instance, a tumor on the spinal cord that's causing pain. You can have radiation for that. What I would like to emphasize about the Medicare benefit, I guess that I find is real important too, that people know that there is a financial benefit to being on hospice through Medicare and Medicaid, and even some of your private insurances. But when a person elects hospice on the Medicare benefit, the hospice program pays for everything that's in relationship to that terminal illness.
Really?
All their pain medications, their hospital bed, their oxygen, their skilled nurse visits, home health aide visits, social work visits, whomever comes out of that per diem rate that Medicare pays us for a patient who's on service. And that is the difference between being on home health and terminal, that regular Medicare does not cover all those different areas that the benefit does.
Now, what someone's sitting out there right now saying, well, how do I know if I'll be covered by Medicare or Medicaid? What if they aren't covered by that?
Then if there's a private insurance, there are benefits, hospice benefits to that.
Okay.
The VAs come out with a benefit, but we cannot turn anybody down for service if there's a terminal illness and they need hospice care. We cannot turn them down.
And and knowing the women I've met in hospice, you wouldn't turn them down. The word can't isn't even the word. You wouldn't turn them down.
That is probably the big reason for the fundraisers, is that we try to have some money set aside to pay for those people who cannot pay, or for someone who's on and their expenses supersede the benefit that we get, the benefit money, which isn't a lot of money. Hospice will never be a money maker for any agency that carries it.
Right.
That's not what we're there for.
You're a service. You're a service of
Continuum of care.
Humbleness, and you're humble.
Continuum of care, the last stage.
That's great. Do you know if the EMBS, the tribal insurance that the tribal employees carry, does it have a hospice?
Boy, I don't know. I don't know about that one.
No, that's what we need to check out.
We had the one gentleman that you and I were just talking about was Tribal Health, and it was my first time dealing with them, and they paid fine per visit rate, but we don't have a contract or anything with them set up.
Okay. Maureen, let's get you involved in this. I mean, we've started sitting here directly with Linda. Being the volunteer director, the coordinator, how many family members, how many people, friends, does it take to keep a patient at home?
Well, in some instances it takes one, and others it may take 30, as we experienced just a little while ago. And really there is no set amount. There should be a primary caregiver, however, someone, as Linda said, who is responsible for the care of that patient. And in the beginning, the patient may be up and around, as we have seen happen, and gradually go to maybe being in bed all the time.
Okay.
And often they'll ask, well, can this person be left alone? And really, if that person was at home or in a hospital even, and they were terminally ill, family would not leave them alone. No one wants to be alone to die.
Right.
And having the hospice concept and having family members involved, it's been my experience that it's the neatest way to be. It's the neatest way to what I call living dying, which is probably a misnomer, but it is. We are living it. We are all living it. And so the numbers of how many people, sometimes it takes more because it's exhausting work. And oftentimes people get involved in the care if they have lived away from their family member for a long time. Sometimes feelings of guilt or obligation enter in, and we see a tremendous amount of reconciliation go on. For whatever reason, people, come home to help take care of dad or mom, whatever it happens to be, and maybe they came because they felt guilty about being away and not seeing that family member for a long time. But that changes, because oftentimes the person who is terminally ill becomes the catalyst for reconciliation with family. And I think that in that dying process, and Linda will swear to it, that there's something there that goes on that we don't have a clue about. And maybe we never will until we experience that ourselves. But it's always been my experience that the person who is dying really knows something no one else knows. And they are able then to carry out that reconciliation and that healing. It's a beautiful thing. It is.
And it's interesting the way you presented that, for the fact that in reality we're all terminal. We all are going to die at some time in our life.
Yes.
And at one time I remember, thinking real heavily about, do I want to die quick, or do I want to die of a terminal illness? And I've come down to the realization that for me, I'd rather die with a terminal illness, because then you make sure that you have addressed all issues. You have said your goodbyes to your family. You have, you have hopefully, been that catalyst to bring reconciliation between members of family who may not be close to each other. And that's a wonderful process.
We see that. We see the unconditional love, the chance to grow right up till the last breath.
Yeah.
With the clients and the family and the caregivers, we people too. Each time we have this experience, there's more growth and understanding within us, and we feel real honored. At least I feel real honored when a family asks me to be in that process at the end.
That unconditional love, there's a word for that. It's called agape love, and means that there's nothing put it. It's a given. It's of grace. It's of mercy. And how has your view of death changed for you in the last 2 years, Linda?
Well, I don't think it really has changed. I think that that's the reason I'm here, is because I'm comfortable about death. I've never been afraid to die. I've had many, many years of nursing experience in nursing homes. Death has been around me in most of my professional life, and there really hasn't been a change. I guess the only change that I can say is that the awareness, the death awareness, and all the things that can come about in that last week or so of the process is totally amazing, and there's room for more growth. But as far as the actual dying thing, I think it's wonderful that we have a choice, and that's part of the reason that I got involved in the first place, was that people should have a choice on how they die and where they die. And I've just always been comfortable with dying. So not a real change for me.
How about you, Maureen?
Well, I don't think there's been a great change in my life either, from the fact that I think the way that you are raised with, I was raised with an extended family on the East Coast, big city living. And I remember as an 8-year-old sitting on my grandpa when he was bedridden and dying and shaving him. My mother taught my sister and I how to shave my grandpa. Any human being who would give an 8-year-old a razor, it's got to be, there's got to be something wrong there. But part of what we did with my grandpa was we knew that he was dying and he was in his bed, in his bedroom, and we helped take care of him. And so to me, the dying process, I think I went through when my sister died about 7 or 8 years ago. I was with her for about 12 weeks before she died. I knew about hospice, but it did not exist where we were, but we did it without knowing. And I've not had a fear about dying. I think I did probably as a child. But I know I have a priest friend, and I said, when I look out at the lake and the mountains, I know that that's part of heaven.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that maybe what we're experiencing as human beings is maybe a little bit of hell. And of course, his response to me was, are you getting out enough? Are you getting out and about? So the fear of dying it's not a scary thing to me.
Okay. And I can quote those same things back to you, and but it also is a wonderful thing to have people who have, our world has gotten so fast-paced that a lot of us have lost a lot of the spirituality in our life. As far as dealing with these issues, we go so fast we don't think about those things. We don't have grandma and grandpa at home anymore. And so we have taken away a lot of the resource that we had with the death and dying. And what hospice is actually doing back is ushering back in part of that process that says you don't have to die alone. It doesn't have to be a terrible experience. It can be actually a very wonderful building, tearing down the walls, reconciliation time, building up all those things. And have you seen a change in Lake County in the last 2 years since you guys have been involved with the hospice in this area?
A little more awareness. You know, there's a little more awareness of death and dying. Of the 50-some patients that we've served and their families are spreading the word. We have a long ways to go.
Okay.
We have a long ways to go. I would imagine there's lots of people out there who are terminal that we haven't touched, and we need to find out a way to touch them.
Okay. Maureen, what if we just touch somebody with this program? What if they want to get hold of us now? Who do they get hold of? How? Where? How do they get started?
I can't wait to tell you all that.
Let's do that.
We are located north of the bridge at the Diamond Horseshoe Complex, downstairs. And as you probably know, St. Luke in Ronan purchased the agency the first part of August. So we are under their parenthood, as it were. And our offices are maintained with a beautiful view of that South Bay. And phone numbers for Linda's phone, 883-7328. Our main switchboard is 883-7300, and mine is 883-7334.
Okay.
And we have voicemail, and if no one is around, someone will take the message, and we promise to get back.
Okay. Linda, anything you want to say in the last minute we got here?
Well, basically that I'm hoping that with this program and the other community stuff that we've been doing, that the walls will come down and the stigma will go away, and that people will take a look at what we can offer them. And at any time, if they want just a visit, to answer questions, I'd be willing to do that for them too.
All right. Maureen, I'd ask you, but I know it'd be too long, so I just want to ask you one last little question that you can answer very, very quickly. What is this comment that you said about you know?
Did I say it?
Yeah, but because it don't say you know.
Don't say you know.
You know. Ladies, I would like, if you're willing to actually do another program with you. I think there's more we can cover. And so for those out in TV land, we're going to do another series next week on the same process of home health care hospice. And so I want to thank you for watching this week and encourage you to tune in next week also. So thank you very much and good day.
Good Medicine is your program. We hope you watch this and subsequent programs to stay informed about your health care. And we'd like to hear from you about how we're doing. Please direct any comments or suggestions you have to us. You can reach us at